Hello, everybody. So I literally never do these. I don't do live things. And probably nobody's ever going to watch this. Or if they do, they're going to watch it way later and be bored halfway through because who knows how long I'm going to talk about this. But this is not my launch into BookTube. No way, considering I have zero cool background. You couldn't just like see my next book lying there. But um, I am firmly and totally planning on giving you a quick review of Arcanum Unbounded by Brandon Sanderson, which is the recent book that I just finished today, actually. So I'm going to do a quick review of this guy, and yeah, that's what I'm going to do because I love talking about books, and I don't get enough of that in my career, I guess. So Arcanum Unbounded is a part of the Cosmere collection. I started my Cosmere journey with Mistborn, The Final Empire. That was great, and I loved it. And then I kind of just left it at that. Re-entered with Stormlight Archive, and now here I am with Arcanum Unbounded. Many times later, many books later, I have read all of the first generation of Mistborn at this point, Warbreaker, Elantris, and all of the Stormlight Archive. So I figured I was ready for this book. If for those of you who don't know, the Cosmere is a connected universe that Brandon Sanderson has written, and this book is kind of a bunch of short stories and novellas that were kind of placed all together. So that's what this book is. It's not like one full novel. So I thought I would just briefly talk about each of the books in the series, or in this book anyway. First of all, I do want to mention I love that like in between the different stories, you get to see like a scientist essentially that is going through the different universes, and it gives you little maps of that place. Like it'll tell you the cellish system. I don't know if I'm saying that right. And then like it's got this fun little map and a little blurb about that system and how it functions. So super cool. Loved that. Inspired some of my own writing, I think, in that regard. But looking at that a little bit, the first story is The Emperor's Soul, which is a novella. It's a big, hefty chunk. It's like that much of the book. It's one of his older pieces of writing, and I loved The Emperor's Soul. You can tell that he served his mission in Korea. I served mine in Japan. The whole magic system is like this stamp thing, and I had my own stamp personally made when I was in Japan. So it was cool to kind of see those things pop up again. I really, really liked it. Cool magic system. You can kind of tell it's got that Elantris older feel that he has, but super fun. I loved it. So Emperor's Soul was great. The next one was The Hope of Elantris, which takes place a little bit after the original Elantris book. Much shorter of a story. That's that right there. And as fun as I liked it, it didn't stick out as much to me. It was cool. It was great. I liked it. But yeah, didn't necessarily stick out a whole lot. I really enjoyed Elantris more than I did Warbreaker. And as good as this short story was, I was just like, oh, cool. And then moved on. But certainly not a bad story. We then go into the Scadrian system, which is all of the fun Mistborn stuff. The 11th Metal is the first one. It's a small chunk again. That one was great. It gives you a little bit more of a view of Kelsier. It's a prequel to the story. And you get to see some of the stuff that later is shown in Well of Ascension. It gives you some clues that lead you there, which I thought was really, really fun. The next one, Alamancer Jack and the Pits of Atlantia. I have not read the second generation of Mistborn. So this one did not stick out to me as much because I didn't quite know everything that was going on. But the commentary was hilarious and had that sort of Brandon Sanderson wit to it. So loved it. That was super fun. Didn't really get what was going on there totally, but I loved it anyway, and it got me excited to read second generation, which will come next. Mistborn Secret History is the next one, which is a big, pretty serious one that I can't say almost anything about without spoiling a bunch. It is a novella, so it's much longer. Takes up a giant chunk in the middle, as you can see. Like that's how far you're in when you're finished with that one. And I loved it. It was awesome. I got emotional in that one. It was beautiful, and I loved the stuff at the end. Such a good ending. So I really, really liked that one. Probably one of my favorites in here. And I loved it so much that I almost wished it had somehow managed to be in the actual Mistborn books, because Kelsier is awesome. Dang it, I already that's kind of a half spoiler, but not quite. It's not totally. But anyway, loved it. White Sand is next. This one I was less interested in because I wasn't really interested in the graphic novel. It's got some of the graphic novel in there, but then it tells you the exact same story of the graphic novel in book form. Super interesting, but yeah, again, not one that particularly stuck out to me. I did like it. Yeah, then we get to this one, Shadows for Silence in the Forests of Hell, which is a title. I honestly really loved this story. It's the darkest story I've ever read by Brandon Sanderson. It has the most swear words of any Brandon Sanderson story that I have read, and it also has the most violence of any Brandon Sanderson story that I have read. So there you go. Don't know what to tell you there. It's, yeah, a lot more dark, a lot more violent. That is not why I liked it. As many people would probably assume that's the reason why. It's not. I really enjoyed it because of its twists and its turns and the very real sense of danger. The monsters felt similar to monsters I have written about in my stories. So that was exciting. I loved that. So Shadows for Silence in the Forest of Hell is a huge standout. I loved that one a lot. That one's that length, so it's longer, but it's not as long as some of the others. Six of the Dusk is the next one that I read, which is another, like, that's about the same size as the Shadows for Silence, but this is probably the one I was the least fond of most of the stories I read. Really cool idea to it, but sadly, maybe this is prejudice. When it mentioned that this world in the Cosmere didn't have any shards, I was less interested in it. But still a cool kind of magic system, and it's, yeah, quite a bit different from some of his others, more jungly than his others, and it was okay. I mean, anything written by Brandon Sanderson is really good, so this is on his scale of it's okay, but that still is better than like a majority of other stories that I've read. Then we got to the one I was really excited about, which is Edge Dancer, because this one is in the Stormlight Archive world, and Stormlight Archive is my favorite of any of the stuff that he's done. So I really, 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 really liked Edge Dancer. I thought it was awesome. I've taken the quiz of which Order of the Knights Radiant you're in. I am an Edge Dancer, so that was super fun. And yeah, its main character is Lift, who is a character that I adore. So I thought that one was amazing. Had a really great ending to it as well, and added something new that I had. As far as I remember, I don't remember it being anywhere else in the Stormlight Archive books, but the Sleepless. Now that I know about them, I'll have to maybe reread and see if they do pop up somewhere, and I just didn't notice it. But the Sleepless are horrifying, and I'm very interested in what the heck they are and why they have not been in the main series as of yet. And they definitely preyed on fears that I have and were really gross. So I loved Edge Dancer. So altogether, Arcanum Unbounded, I thought it was awesome. I was really worried that with all these short stories, I was going to get really annoyed, or that it wasn't going to be as good, or it was going to be a slog. It was not. I really, really enjoyed them. Even the ones that I liked less than some of the others, I still really enjoyed. I think it's an awesome book. But I could see some of the reviews I saw earlier, I think are true. If you have not read the Cosmere, if you have not read other books in that series, this book is a crappy book to read. You will not enjoy it very much because it's very Cosmere centric. It's got a lot of Cosmere clues, and some stories like the Mistborn ones and the Stormlight ones will make no sense without the other books. Like it will be very confusing. So I recommend this book, but only if you have read probably the first generation of Mistborn and the Stormlight Archive, which is the ones that I read before reading this, and Elantris as well. So basically all of the Cosmere except for the Warbreaker and the second generation of Mistborn. Those ones you don't have to read. Everything else you do in order for this book to be great. But it is awesome, and the Cosmere is awesome. So if you haven't read those books, you should. And that is my review of Arcanum Unbounded.